Where would you say like the barrier, the threshold is between saying you are a disabled person to someone who has a unique offering to be able to give to the world?
Well, you see, it's a gray line.
Mm.
Okay, so the speech delay that I had, yes, that's definitely an abnormality to have delayed speech. But then you get, when does nerdy turn into a medical label? There's no black and white dividing line. And now where the diagnosis really helped the granddads that I talked to you about was with relationships. See, a lot of adults getting diagnosed, it really, really, really helps with their relationships.
Yeah.
I think in some cases the diagnosis is holding them back on the employment front, because I worked with so many people that were definitely neurodivergent in construction. People that own companies that built things, not just built them, but invented mechanical devices. I know that because I was out on the jobs with them for 25 years.
On the relationship side of things, I know a lot of people who are ND may struggle with forming close bonds or the networking side of things. So I'd be curious to know how you manage to make those contacts which open up those back doors, even if coming out of your comfort zone is something which could terrify you.
Well, I think part of it is, and I was terrified, but I had good training selling candy for charity when I was in primary school. And the other thing was those parties where we had to put on all the kids in our neighborhoods that did this when 7, 8 years old. You, during the cocktail hour, you greeted the guests when they came in, you took their coats, you served snacks. Now, we didn't touch the alcohol. No, they were strict about that. It was snacks we served. And you learned how to talk to the grown-ups, and they were Mr. and Mrs. Wood. We knew the first names. We weren't allowed to use them. But I'm realizing, and then my brother saying that helped him become a bank vice president, even though he hated the parties. That this, again, I'm realizing later on in life just how important that training was when I was a child. The parties and the selling candy for charity.
So I suppose if we were to translate that for students or researchers, it would be getting involved in communities, societies, conferences, any sort of interaction.
And then when I sold my first design jobs, I went to a lot of conferences, and I had my notebook with my drawings in it. And I'd whip out a big drawing and show it to people. I had plastic pages with photographs, to show off stuff. And then I'd sell jobs. I went to a lot of conferences. And then, of course, you have to be careful at the convention centers not to get kicked out. It's called briefcasing,
Yeah.
Kicked out. I was very clever at that.
A bit more of a selfish question, which more relates to myself. I do a lot of training around neurodiversity for organizations. And I was wondering if there's any things which you think people are teaching which are not that useful, and are there any elements which are essential?
Well, the thing that I've found from all the years I've been doing this talk, the pilot checklist principle and written instructions in a checklist format would prevent firings on just so many jobs. And then the problem with the lighting, and let's avoid multitasking chaos during the holidays at a store. That I can think of a case now where an 18-year-old failed at Christmas time at a bookstore, which normally would have been a fabulous job for her, but not their Christmas wrapping station. Oh, that was chaos. Or a job at a clothing store, but Christmas time was chaos. And that I try to avoid that, not start a job at that. She started a job during Christmas chaos, and that did not work. So let's avoid that. The things that just overload the processing speed. And then we have a great bookstore, and but their Christmas wrapping station, I took one look at that and I'm going, I'd put the wrong book in the wrong wrapper, and the person would get the wrong book, and it would just be a mess. And normally that bookstore would have been a wonderful place for someone on the spectrum to work.